All right, let's get started. Hello and happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Today is March 3rd, episode 67, if you can believe it. So we are going to talk today. We have a student guest with us who's going to talk about the Storytime website, the website where we have teachers who recorded themselves reading or students who recorded themselves reading books and ways you can access that and help out with that. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the new features that are being rolled out right now with Google Tools, with Google Meet, Classroom, that kind of stuff. Some of this stuff is still not out yet. It's coming, but we're kind of talking about how it's going to look like the next few weeks or months. And then finally, depending on time, we're going to talk a little bit more about Steam integration, what that looks like, and kind of some best of examples that you can maybe use in your classroom, or maybe pieces of them that make sense to use depending on your grade level and so forth. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull up, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what's coming down for announced things for Google Classroom and Google Meet and so forth. These links will be, I'll throw them in the show notes, so if you want to follow along, throw them in the chat there. These are not officially out yet. They are being rolled out. And what that means is that some districts, some users might get some of these. They usually, with Google, they usually don't just drop everything at once. They usually kind of piece it out so you can see if something works or something doesn't work, and they can respond to that. So some of these features, you might have them already, or you might kind of see them going out next couple of weeks. So I'm not going to go through all these. I did put the link in the chat, but there's a couple that I want to highlight that's coming down. One of them, in Google Classroom, specifically, where was it here? You will be able to, as teachers, oh yeah, right here. There's going to be able to better integration with other types of tools. And what that means is, if you know in Google Slides or Google Docs or Sheets or anything, you can do add-ons. You can do little programs that add functionality to the original program. Same thing for Google Drive, right? Well, Google Classroom is going to have that same ability. So if you're using tools and other things, you'll be able to kind of insert those or add those on to your Google Classroom setup. The benefit of that is it's one less thing to have to leave. So let's say you need to open up and edit a PDF, or work with a graphic, or whatever. All these different tools that we're using for all kinds of cool stuff, they'll be more integrated with Google Classroom directly. How that's going to look for the students, I don't know yet. We'll see as it rolls out and how that will work. My guess is we'll play with a bunch of different add-ons like we normally do, see which ones work best for us, and those are the ones that we'll push out so that all students have those. So be looking for that next couple of weeks. I'm excited about what that might offer. Just more integration usually is better. Another thing that's coming out, another tool that I think is going to be really useful, is increased number of image upload to Classroom. So they're making it easier to upload physical assignments. Rather than having to upload to one thing and then bring it into Google Classroom, they're going to build that ability right in Classroom specifically. So that should be super helpful. Again, I'm not sure when this is rolled out, next couple of weeks or so, or maybe within a month. But that'll be, again, another feature that will be super useful, especially probably the younger grades. I think they'll like to use that as well. The other thing I think is worth mentioning is the branding that Google has rebranded. So we've been called Google Suite or G Suite for a long time. That's all the apps that you use. If you think about up here in the upper right-hand corner, that little grid, a little gray waffle up there, all these different apps, the entire package of those are considered the G Suite. Well, they've rebranded it to call it the Google Workplace, and or workspace, I should say. And for right or wrong, I mean, branding is branding. But the reason why I think it's worth mentioning it and bringing it up is they're really doubling down on the idea, not just for schools or education, but across the board, for offices, for businesses, the idea that there will be some of your employees that are part-time at home while other employees are physically at work. And that collaboration going back and forth. There's a lot of businesses that have already said that they're not going back to in-person, even after the pandemic, that they'll allow their employees to be able to be remote from this point on. Now, again, I'm not saying that's for education necessarily, but the reason why I bring it up is we want our students to be able to be comfortable in that environment, at least from a technical perspective, and hopefully from a content perspective as well, so that if they do go into the workforce or go into the job force and are expected to use these tools, they've had exposure to them. So it's not the first time they know how to work from home or whatever. Again, I think education will look a lot different, obviously, than in the workforce. But I think it's worth mentioning that the tools that we're using and the tools that businesses are using are kind of pushing to that model. And so how can we prepare our kids for that? So I just think that's worth mentioning. The other tool that's getting an upgrade or added features is Meet. And again, I can't tell you when this will be rolled out, but this is coming sooner than later. These type of things where just more of the stuff that you may want. For example, the ability to mute all students at once with one click as a teacher. Better ways for making sure that you are the host as the teacher. Again, I'm still surprised that that's still a little bit clunky and doesn't work 100% of the time. So they're addressing that and hopefully making that going to work a little bit better. Another cool tool I think that's worthwhile, where was it here? Here, somewhere in here. They're giving you the ability, right here, for students to be able to not just raise hand, but do some emojis. I know it's something that we were looking for at the beginning of the year. So if you are a student, if you want to, put thumbs up or something else, or building that into it as one of the improvements. So these will be launching in the next few weeks. My guess is some of you will see these things. A couple of you like, oh, this just appeared today, and then maybe it goes away and comes back again. That's usually what happens with the betas. And then after that, eventually they'll just be built into all of it. And I'll put the link for this page as well into the chat. So if you want to check that out, you can do that. All right, cool. I now would like to introduce one of our broadcasting students, Connor. And so Connor is presenting here. Let me find Connor if I change my layout. There we are. So Connor today is going to talk to you about story time. So we had mentioned this before a couple of weeks back. There's a website that our district has been building, a repository of different videos that kids have recorded of reading storybooks. I know the ROTC group has done that at the high school level for quite a few of them. But he's just going to talk about some of the added features that we've been building in the last few weeks. So Connor, take it away.
Okay. So basically, yeah, I am going to talk about the Storytime feature. I'm just going to present my screen. All right, so right here is our Storytime website. I'll put that in the chat. Once you go onto this website, it brings you right to this home page. It shows up your top bar, has your book list, your directions, resources, and ways to contact. But most importantly, we have the book list right here. And within this book list, we have, once it loads, we basically have the list of all the books that are pre-recorded from either students or staff within Nokomis. You can choose your reading level. You can go from pre-K through first grade, 3 through 4, 2 through 3, or just pre-K through 4 in general. You can choose between authors that are pre-recorded so far, and you can even choose the reader. We do have quite a few of these options so far, but we are looking to get some more. So once you go back to this home page, if you go to directions, right here are your directions to record a story. You can either record them using Google Meet, your Chrome camera, Screencastify, or revideo. You'll come to this form right here, and on this form right here, you can fill out all the information needed, your name, your email, the approximate reading level of the story, the title of the story, the author, the link to the video, and the link to the image of the book cover. Once this form gets filled out, it gets compiled into a Google form right here. It gets compiled in this form, and this form automatically puts together everything in order, and it even generates a QR code on its own. Once it's done being generated through here, it gets put into these bookmarks. And within these bookmarks, these can be used to be put inside to library books. So eventually, students will be able to pick out a library book, and it will have this bookmark included within it. And they can scan it with either their phone or an iPad that is available in the library, and they can listen to it and read by the either student or the teacher that read it. So that's basically the quick little rundown of the whole thing. We're always looking for more people to read some books. I know some teachers have mentioned doing that lately, but it's a good thing to incorporate into LA classes, practice reading aloud and things like that. So yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you, Connor. If any of you guys have any questions for myself or for Connor, just throw it in the chat or let us know. We have been starting with books, kind of pushing books that were the most commonly used down at the elementary level. I know talking to Kelly Burns and some of the teachers, that these are the ones that most kids are reading at that younger level, but we can keep adding to that and keep expanding. I'm hoping this becomes basically a repository that just keeps going on, forever, basically. One question that's come up in the past is, as far as what about copyright issues? All of these are contained in the district, and what that means is you have to have an rsu19.net account to be able to see those books. So if somebody clicked on them from outside, it would just say not available, but any students that are in the district will be able to click on that and pull them up. So the bookmark thing is just kind of an added bonus. We're going to make those available, those PDFs available to the different librarians in the elementary schools, and they go right with the book itself. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Connor. We're going to jump over to kind of the presentation of the day. So today we're going to talk a little bit about STEAM. Now, I'm sure STEM and STEAM, basically the same thing. We just added art there. So what does that mean? The terminology: science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. And it can get crazy. You keep adding to this. Well, what about language arts? What about this? What about that? Whatever, to the point where it's just everything, right? And so I want to go through the process of a possible project. Now, we've done bits and pieces of this project in different grade levels and different subject areas, kind of show you all the different aspects of how something like this might apply. Now, the expectation is not that anybody, even at any grade level, would take this project and do it all the way through. It was that you might see one aspect of it or one facet of it that you think is interesting. Like, oh, how did he do that? Or wow, how do we do that piece of it? And you would take that out and use that component in your own classroom. So, oops, I'm sorry. Thank you. Somebody, my mic is off. Says my mic is on. Can you hear me now? You guys hear me? Give me like a yes in the chat. Okay, so maybe it's, I don't know, check your audio. Somebody asked that the mic was off. All right, so talking STEM, we're going to explore a topic, a scientific topic, through a STEM lens. And we're going to apply different aspects of that to the same topic. We're going to show different examples of differentiation between different grade levels. So not that it's just a high school thing or a middle school thing or elementary, but how you might adapt it depending on what age level you're working with. We're going to showcase some of these tools in action. Now, this is not a tutorial of a step-by-step for each of the tools. This is just showing kind of what's possible with the tool. And if you're interested in any of these, absolutely, positively, please reach out and let me know, because I'm happy to do a deep dive with any of them with you to show you how you might incorporate into your classroom. This just shows you what's possible with them. And these are all web-based and free. So all the things I'm going to show you are things that we either own in the district or you have access to, and your students have access to. Some examples, and this is going to be younger, and I'm going to show you kind of 3 different levels here: elementary, middle school, and high school. So this is a project we did a few years back over at Dixmont. Behold the bold umbrella-phant and other poems. So this is a poetry book, and they tell different animals, and they have different features. For example, an elephant with an umbrella for a nose, and they have different things. So each of the students created their own version. This student here created the spitten. It's a spoon and a kitten put together. So there's your art aspect of it. And then they actually drew out their animal or their character, which we did with a project. I'm going to show you that in a minute, with a program to make a 3D render of that, so they could actually physically create the thing that they thought of. And so this was a younger K4 version of integrating STEAM into something they're doing in language arts. Here's a middle school of science. I see Ms. Barbosa is on there. She will definitely recognize this. So this is her cell project, where students are creating cells. They're drawing them by hand. They learn about cells in science. Then they take that drawing, again, convert it to a 3D model, and then physically print that out. And I'll show you another level of that when we get to the end here for possibilities. And then this is at the high school level, Mr. Sorensen. So this is our AP math teacher, calculus teacher. One thing that happens in AP classes at the last couple weeks of school, typically, it's kind of downtime because they've taken their test and they've done all the work to get up to the test. And then the last couple of weeks, they're really don't have a lot to do. So they would come up with projects, and this one was actually creating 3D models and renders of integrals that were very unique. They weren't normal shapes. You know, they weren't circles and cubes and cones, that kind of stuff. They were abnormal. So to give students a physical representation of that really odd integral was kind of really super useful. So again, these were all 3D printed things, just because that's what we're going to talk about today. But there's certainly a million different options as far as how you can integrate that STEAM into what you're doing. So the topic we're going to talk is about science, and we talk about animal adaptations. Okay, so kind of using that same idea as the umbrella fin, where we're going to take a couple different animals, talk about why a camel is able to store water for so long, or a giraffe has a long neck, or whatever their thing is. So the different types of animal adaptations: structural, like the giraffe's neck, for example, to reach those higher leaves; physiological, so camels conserving water; and maybe behavioral, where, like, for example, parakeets living in the ground to avoid predators. So now there's a million different adaptations, obviously, and depending on your grade level, I would say it would dictate what type of thing you might focus on. So if you ask a student to create a brand new animal from scratch, that would be really hard to do. But taking existing animals that are out there, thinking about what unique adaptations they might have, and maybe combining them together, that's a little bit more doable. So maybe for younger grades, you might do it in the context of a Pokemon, just because it might be fun. Hybrid animals, maybe for like middle school level, where they're taking those characteristics from multiple different creatures. And then maybe aliens, or something that's totally off the wall beyond what we're used to up at the high school level. Again, these are just suggestions, but you could certainly do any of these with any of the grade levels. So they would draw that. Now, the reason why we can model them, and we'll talk about that. The reason why I brought the drawing aspect of it into it is to bring that, one, it's bring art into it, but also rather than grabbing a model that's kind of just computer generated, to give that creativity and to give that free form. So when students are just drawing by hand and they're creating something, they don't feel any constraints as far as like, oh, I can only do it in this box. You just kind of make what you want. So that's always a great place to start. Looking for inspiration, there's a great series. If you haven't seen this, it is a cartoon series called Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you don't know about it, ask your students. They probably do. But they have a fantastic set of animals that they have in this cartoon that are all kinds of like these kind of hybrid animals, like the badger mole, or the ostrich horse, or the koala sheep, or whatever. And so we're actually going to talk about the turtle duck. Just because that's what we use as an example. So half duck, half turtle, all cuteness. And we'll see what it looks like. So the first thing is they would draw their animal. Again, this is a pretty high quality rendition, but it doesn't really matter. The only thing that's going to matter as far as our project here is they're going to take the silhouette of that animal. So whatever it is, they're going to do their silhouette. And that might be something you ask them for is, could you create it in such a way that if you could just see the outline of it, I could tell what it is, depending on what their animal is. We're then going to use Google Draw. So right built into Google Draw, if I go to my drive, we're going to do new, do more, Google Draw. If you write in here, if you click Insert Image, and if I choose from Camera, now it's going to be a little bit redundant because I'm here, but I could have students could actually, they could hold something up if they have a drawing on here, and they could take a picture of it. The reason why we bring it into Draw is you want to use those tools to make it more contrasted. So if you notice here, if you look at the image here, it is pure black and pure white. There's no gray in it. And that's what you want to do with this tool. You can basically make adjustments and make it be perfectly black and perfectly white. You're going to download that image. So when you're done here, you click Insert. I don't think I have one. Let me see if I've got one real quickly here. I'll just search my drive. I'm not sure if I have it really handy here. Yeah, I don't have a duck on here. That's okay. Okay, so I would click File, Download as a PNG file. And then I'm going to take that image file and I'm going to upload it to this tool called Selva 3D. So Selva 3D, it's free. You can pay for higher quality versions. Don't worry about that. You don't need to. But basically what's going to happen, it's going to turn that 2D model into a 3D model. So I'm going to transform that flat image. You insert it, you bring it in, it will render it. It'll make it, like if you notice right here, it looks like a 3D model. It's kind of, takes anything that is black, in that case, ignores all the white, and it makes it 3D. So any child, any student that's creating something by hand, they can bring that in, turn it into a model. We're then going to download that as what's called an STL file. So that STL file, we are then bringing into TinkerCAD. Now, we've talked about TinkerCAD before, and TinkerCAD is great. It's free. A lot of your students have already had exposure to it. We'll sign back in as that loads. Many of your kids have either done projects with this. This is actually one of the high school. We'll actually use this one because this will work for what we're talking about here. So this is a model that a student did of the school, a 3D printed model that you can see. And so they can bring that duck model right into here. They can move it around. One cool thing to talk about when we start introducing TinkerCAD to kids, one is X, Y, and Z coordinate planes, right? You're talking about, if you're talking X and Y, and in this case, you do have to talk about Z, and you might, refer to that as if you're doing coordinate planes in math right now. That's a great way to introduce it. If not, a lot of students are pretty savvy about this because of gaming, per se. The other thing you can do is talk about scale. So right now, this model could be really, really huge, or it could be really, really tiny. The grid we're off right now, if you look in the lower right here, is the millimeter, but that doesn't matter when you're actually printing it out. It just matters while you're looking at it. One way you can kind of convert that to units that kids understand, in the upper right here, there's a little pickaxe. If I click on that, this is what it will now look in Minecraft. And again, kids can get that around their heads. Oh yeah, and they actually show you a tree. So if I want a little bit better rendition, a better quality as far as, there's a tree small now, so a little bit more accurate to size. The other thing I can do here are Legos. Click on the little brick in the upper right here. So here's a very simple version. I can go a little bit better resolution version. Okay, and the cool thing I like about this, if you're showing this to kids and talk about scale and that kind of stuff, it actually gives you the layers here. So I could theoretically build this up layer by layer, and they could see each layer, how it would work on top of itself. So that introduces us to some of the math components. When I'm done with that, I'm happy with my duck. Again, you can get it fancier. Let me see if I've got mine up real quickly here. I have the, I have this preloaded, but I have the duck in my other account here. Just so you can see what it might look like. There it is. So once you take that 2D version that they have, if you want to make it fancy, if you want to add other kind of things to it, you can. So in this case, we actually took another shape here. We actually took the diamond shape. Here, remember, we're talking about a turtle duck here. As we hit the diamond right here, I just dragged that over, and we made it green, and we just kind of flipped it around. Now, you could make this as fancy or as not fancy as you wanted. I can stretch it out. Let's make it a little bit bigger here. So coordinating these different pieces together, we'd be able to create something even a little bit fancier here. So this is just the back is just one of the diamond shape. The wing here is just the scribble. So if you look at the scribble tool right here, if I drag this over, you can actually make any shape you want. We actually turn it into kind of a wing shape. Let's get rid of that. And when I'm all done, I'll have something that looks kind of like this. If you do want to go down the path of actually physically printing it, that's an option. You don't have to do that. If you want to actually physically print it, it might look something like this. This is that exact file you're looking at right now, just 3D printed. It's flat at the bottom, and here it is. To do that, you would just click Export as an STL file and go through that process. Again, we're not going to do that right now, but so the students could have something by hand that they've created from scratch. The next layer up, if you want to get fancier, basically, if you want to get a little bit more detail, again, this would probably be upper middle school or high school level, something like this. This is the same type of product, but you'll notice here, the version of it, the quality is a lot different, right? It's a lot more sculpted. It's a lot more maybe true to form. And again, we have a 3D print of that same type of thing. It's just a little bit different depending on your needs with your kids and how much time and energy you want to put into that. I'm going to use this version, though. When I'm done, if I export it into as an OBJ file, now this is new, relatively new, we discovered. One of the other products we've looked at before, let me go back to the slideshow here, after we have 3D printed it out. So these are our different models we've already talked about, and the math, and the different scales. And then the actual engineering part, again, the 3D printing falls a little bit more under engineering because you have to make sure it's structurally sound. Again, we're not going to worry about that today. And there's a printout of it. There's a printout of the other one. But then we can take that file and actually bring it into CoSpaces. Now, we have something that 7th graders have done for a long time. CoSpaces is a virtual environment. Let me see if this links to the actual environment here. I think it does. So they're going to take that 3D model and they're going to put it in a 3D environment. Again, we're still talking X, Y, and Z features. Loads here. But you also can add the scientific aspects of the environment right here, right? So if I'm looking at this right now is pretty boring, but here I am. I can kind of move around in that space. And if I want to get a little fancier, I can actually put it in an environment that is more accurate to what it should be. So maybe my duck is in a pond here, and it's moving around. Again, you can introduce a little bit of coding. Middle school up. Again, not very hard. Kids can usually handle this. Again, we're talking about scale. So I have a rabbit here that shows me, oh yeah, I'm really tiny in this scene here, in this ability. But this is where we're going from creation to engineering, to the math aspects of it, to the science aspect, to again, and this here is a little bit more interactive, a little bit more published, where kids can do the coding piece as well. So I like this idea where all the different aspects of this are laid on top of it. It basically touches everything in the STEAM universe, and it doesn't really matter which piece of that you would be interested in and incorporate it into whatever you're doing. You can kind of pick and choose the piece that makes sense to you, but these are all available to you. And again, if there's anything in particular that you're interested in, please let me know. We can look at any one aspect of this. And what I'm excited about, the more that our kids are doing these things, the more comfortable they are in these environments and just kind of take it for granted because they've been doing it, that makes it easier for everyone else up the chain. So if coming to you as, let's say, a 9th grade teacher, and you know that all of your students have done some of these things, then if you assign a project that uses these tools, they've already done it before, right? They've already had exposure to that, so they're not starting from scratch. And that just makes what we can do by the time we get to the upper levels that much more. So I think with that, like I said, simple code. That's all the code it is. And again, that's pretty drag and drop. So that's not super hard. The kids could handle that certainly in class time. I also leave you with one final link here. And so this is a great tool. If you're looking for these types of tools, just go back here to the Chromebook App Hub with Google. This just gives you the ability to search not only the different types of tools that are available to you, but if I come over here on the left to the filters, try that again. I can choose age ranges. Let's say middle school, integrations. I wanted to use, this is for tablets. Yeah, we don't really have tablets, but you can kind of pick that kind of thing. Let's do app category. So maybe you're looking for, here's math or music production. I want to do some social sciences. Here's STEAM, storytelling. These will give you the types of tools that are appropriate for what you're trying to do. And so this is just a great way to start, or even send the students there. Say, hey, we're looking at this project. We need to do a book report. What kind of tool do you think would be a great way to do this? And have them poke around. Maybe they find something. Oh, book creator. That sounds interesting. Let's go look at that. And so this will give you some sample lessons to give you some sample stuff to see what it looked like if it's a tool that would work for you. So I think with that, stop presenting. We'll jump back here. Are there any questions? Again, that was purposely a real quick, broad brush view of a possible project. The idea there is hopefully you'll just find one or two things that might be interesting to you, or resources that you can find and use later on. We are coming up to the half hour. And so I'm going to sign off. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Please reach out as far as the storytelling stuff goes. If you do have books that you either have read and recorded or would like to, it'd be great to build that library of all those books that we have from our own, either our own students or our own teachers, just to basically to share with everybody so that all the other teachers can benefit from that. So I think with that, I'm going to call it. Thank you guys all. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.